Hello, and welcome to UK Versus again. Another little video from myself, Richard. Um, so this was sort of prompted by I've just sort of got a new sort of locals going, which is great. And I've had a few new players, and obviously there's a lot of different products and a lot of question of basically the title of this thing. Where the heck do I get that card from? There's a whole lot of different products on the market of the five different sets. So I thought I'd try and go through everything. Obviously not every single card, but just give an idea of what each of the products are, where all the different promos are, and so on and so forth. We'll go to the next slide. There's a few sort of base concept, I guess, I'll cover at the start. And also, I probably should just warn, this is probably going to be a long one. So strap in. And I'll try and make sure the link to this slideshow is in the description of the video, so you can always go and have a look at it. Like I say, it's not conclusive, but it should be hopefully helpful to people. So first of all, I'll go through what the redemption system is. So there's a lot of promos within the game, mechanically unique promos, and most of them are redeemable. So if you've got a UGN account you're racking up those points for, you should probably know about the system, but just quickly, every time you play in a locals or an RLE or a provisional source championship or what have you, you get points and they go into your account, and you can then spend those on the loyalty shop within the app to get non-foil copies of these promos. They tend to come available a while after the actual original foil versions are released. But it means that even if you don't necessarily get hold of those foil versions, you can always get access to those cards to play with in the slightly less, I guess, desirable non-foil version of the redemption system. And it's like a great system because it's all free. You just rack up those points. And there's obviously your packs. If you send those in, currently only to Vegas, but sometimes they'll do on-site redemption at RLEs and other areas and what have you. But every 30 gets you 30 points. So you keep those pack wrappers, send them in, and you get even more points on your account to spend on those promos. There's five current sets in the game. Obviously, we've recently been had the sixth set Jetburn announced. I'm not going to go over that here. That's obviously all covered later on. I might do addendums to this video as and when we get more sets later, but I'm just going to go through the first five for now. There's also a lot of alt arts available, which I'll cover briefly-ish at the end. So I mainly want to go through where each mechanically unique card is available. So yeah, there's various ways you can get alternate art versions, which are generally pretty cool. But yeah, we'll cover that right at the end. And then I just wanted to go through all the different rarities are. So you got the secret rare, ultra rare, rare, uncommon, common, starter exclusive, I believe what SE is, promo, extra rare, and character. So the first five are sort of your descending rarities that you're getting booster packs, right? So secret rares are rarer than ultra rares rarer than rare, so on and so forth. Starter exclusive, they're the ones you find in your Clash decks, so whether that be your Deku Baguio ones or your Mirio ones, so on and so forth. Promos are like your Plus Ultras, Quirk Packs, things like that. Extra rares are those extra shiny, extra foil treatments of cards within the set, and you get those within boosters. They're random. They're just like an extra. I believe they take up a slot of an uncommon within a booster pack. Again, they're just a way of sort of shining up your deck. And then CH is a new rarity that was brought in set 5, which is character. Obviously, there was a change to set 5, which again we'll cover later. But yeah, that brought in that character rarity. So yeah, we'll start off at set 1. So this was the one that launched everything. We've got a few sort of base facts here we'll go over. So 146 cards, 2 secret rares, 19 ultra rares, 24 rares, 47 uncommons, 48 commons. As you'll see, the secret rares tend to be sort of almost added on at the end. So you've got the main set is numbered at 180, but then the secret rares are 181 and 182, which is kind of a weird thing they've done because they're secret, I guess. For set one, the Clash deck, so the Deku and Bakugo Clash deck, that was included within the main numbering of the set. So although it says 180 cards, um, there's only 146 that are actually in those booster packs. Each pack is 10 cards, so one rare plus, so that's a rare, ultra rare, or secret rare, 3 uncommon, 6 commons. 24 packs in a box. Each box, and this is something that you'll see in most of all the boxes. I think all of the boxes going forward. They are, generally speaking, you'll get in 6 packs you'll get an ultra rare rather than a rare, and in 4 packs you'll get an XR, an extra rare replacing uncommon. They're not fixed, they're not guaranteed, but that is, most of your boxes that you would open of this set, you would get that distribution. There were first edition and unlimited printings. No mechanical differences between them, other than certainly in set one there were a few misprints. So I believe in first edition, Giant Ice Wall had the art for Ice Storm, which was then fixed in unlimited. I think Creepy Realization has the wrong block modifier on first edition. But other than it saying first edition at the bottom rather than nothing at the bottom, like there's no difference between them. Mostly a bit pointless, to be honest. Secret rares, and this again the same rarity of those you'll see again for the first 4 sets. They are generally 2 per case, so a case is 6 boxes. There's 2 secret rares, so you've got Nitro Explosive Ignition and 5% Full Cowling Strike. You'll generally get 1 of each in a case of 6 boxes, so they're pretty rare, and in set 1 they're actually pretty good. So they've maintained some value. Set 1 in general probably is the most powerful set, probably still, although I think set 5 is kind of pushing that now. So yeah, there's the most staple cards. So you're seeing things like Meteor Shower, Indiscriminate Shot 1.3 million, Texas Smash, Requesting Assistance, Summon Dark Shadow Ruin, Turn to Dust, Evil Gaze. This and I could Destined for Maintaining Success, Release, Heroic Lineage, Erase. Like there's so many staples within this set. Like a lot of people have often asked for set 1 to be banned because they're slightly mental. But yeah, it has left a large shadow over the rest of the cards because they were just so powerful in there. I think the feeling is that set 1 was more on par with old UFS. Whereas the idea was they wanted to bring My Hero, so the power level just down a bit. But yeah, so and as a result, I think set 1 has the most banned cards. I mean, there's not huge amounts, but for example, Coordinated Effort, Unwavering Slash, just to think of 2 off the top of my head, and obviously Kirishima 1 that was in the set, he got errated into oblivion. And then each box came with Go Beyond as a box topper, a sealed box topper. That I think no one's ever really played ever. Although actually maybe Todoroki 1 at the Gen Con RLE was playing them if I remember rightly. But yeah. So yeah, every box came with those fixed ones, so everyone has a million of these Go Beyonds. So yeah, that was the set 1 boosters. Yeah, like I said, that's if you're getting into the game to begin with, set 1 and a box of set 1 is always going to be a good place to start. It's got most of those powerful characters like Jiro, Nomu, Tokoyami, and it's never a bad place to start. We then go to the quirk packs for set 1. So again, these were for the first 4 sets. They got rid of them for set 5, which is brilliant. So each box of set 1 came with 2 quirk packs. So 2 almost little mini boosters with a singular card in. And they were randomised amongst those 5 cards there. So All Might 4, Amphibious Ambush, Capture Evildoers, Kamui Woods, Villains Defeated. So you'd get 2 of those 5. And the only way to get them was by buying a box. They're not redeemable, which a lot of people would prefer them to be because they're almost, I mean not quite, but almost on the level of like a secret rarity in that you just have to buy the boxes to get them. and certainly with the set one, they're all very playable. Like Kamui Woods has seen play. All Might 4 has the stupid combo deck. Amphibious Ambush is always on the table when you're playing a range deck. Capture Evildoers is like probably at the moment Public Enemy number one, and they're probably the card most people want banned. Um, Villains Defeated has always seen, if not extensive play, but there's always been play in Eraserhead, and it's always been there and thereabouts. So very good. But yeah, it's just too random one of those in seal packs, and you just get them from buying boxes. And obviously, yeah, they've got rid of them in set 5 and going forward, which is a great move because quirk packs are a little feels bad. They're always meant to feel like this bonus for buying boxes, which would make sense if they were like nice alt arts or things like that. But them being mechanically unique, you need them to play your decks, and that's the only way to get them. There's always just that feels bad with these things. So then we go on to the first Clash deck. So this is probably, it's certainly for those who got into the start, probably one of the first places where you would get into playing the game. Certainly how I got into playing the game with my son. I just bought one of these. We played together, liked it, then ended up buying more cards, and now well on down that rabbit hole. So this is like a two player box. The idea the decks are kind of almost built to be played against each other. So they're fixed contents. So 2 card decks with a character. There's 36 different cards, so each deck has 18 different unique cards with multiple copies of each. You also get 2 random ultra rares from set 1 within there. Could be anything. I think with set 1, actually, there was a higher chance of Frigid Heat Wave and Detroit Smash, if I remember rightly. They were like short printed in the main boosters because a lot of them ended up in the Clash decks. But certainly this Clash deck, although it's kind of basic, and it is fun to play with, there's a lot of format staples within this one. So things like Passing the Torch, Self-Sacrifice, just more off the top of my head. I can't think off the top of my head, but yeah, there's plenty of staples within there, so it's never a bad place to start. And as you can see, the annoying one-offs. So again, they fixed this a bit in set 5, but each of the Bakugo and Deku decks have a one-of attack and a one-of foundation. So you just get a single copy of each. So there's 4 cards within this box. That if you want a playset of that card, you need to buy 4 of these boxes, which is obviously a bit horrid. You can get all of these cards as extra rare versions, XR versions within the set 1 boosters, but they don't appear as normal versions in there. You only have those random, 4 per box chance to get extra rare versions of these. Otherwise, this box is your only way of getting them. So Clash decks are always a good way to get into the game, especially this one. Like I say, they're fun to play together and a good way to test out whether you like the game. It's not certainly with the set 1, it's very much not overly complicated at all. And although like the instructions inside aren't perfect for learning the game, there's plenty of resources to help you learn as on top of this. So the set 1 Clash deck is a very good entry point just to sort of find out whether you like it or not, really. And like I said, there's plenty of staples. So even if you then go further into the game, the cards in here are not a waste. They're going to be used in your decks. And yeah, like I said, the SCA rarity as well. We then go on to another product that they have since got rid of, for the best, in my opinion. The deck loadable content, or DLC. So this is the set 1 DLC. So the way these worked are they are fixed content. So 12 cards, 2 copies of each. I won't read through them all, but they're all listed there. And they certainly for the first 3 of these, they're almost like mini kits for characters. So you had All Might 2, Ochako 2, Ida 2, and Asui 2, and with an attack and a foundation for each. And a lot of them sort of filled that, went with that pattern of just little mini kits of 4 different characters just to append onto the main set. Certainly for the set 1, as you see, there's multiple big format staples there, like Tongue Whip is huge. high engine kick sees a lot of play. First villain encounters, see reasonable amount of play. Class 1 presence sees a little bit. A Chaco too, very very good character. But then and then there's stuff like Asui 2, who's not good at all, or Ida 2. Like it's uh it's one of those things where you feel bad because you sort of feel like you have to buy two of these boxes, and they're not cheap, just to get your four tongue whips. And like if you're playing tongue whips and balls, you're probably playing tongue whip. Um, so it was never a popular product for players. Certainly, as far as I'm aware, I know not a very popular product for retailers, because they buy a case of them, or however many the sort of wholesale purchase like box of these, and then people would get their two, and then they'd be left with some of these behind, just sort of sitting on the shelf. They would never sell, because they're not the sort of thing you would walk into a shop and you buy a booster because you got a few quid in your pocket, or whatever. These are like 20 odd quid or whatever. So yeah, they're not a very popular product, and they have since been removed, going from set 5 onwards, which is a great move, which we'll get to later. But yeah, so unfortunately, if you want these cards, and unless you can find them on the secondary market, which tends to be a little tricky, and obviously the ones the good ones in here are going to be more expensive. You need two of these boxes to get your play sets of 4 cards of each, and then you end up with 4 copies of the characters, which is a waste. So they're just a bit of a nicky product. So then we go on to the provisional promos. So these work a little bit different these days, but and I'm not 100% sure on how the tournaments worked back in set 1, because the organised players sort of obviously evolved quite a lot. But I believe there were a whole bunch of provisional tournaments. I don't know how big they were. I believe there was some on webcam. Excuse me. And by participating, you get access to these promos. Again, I don't know how many you would get. Again, I wasn't really playing competitively at all back here, so I don't really know how you would attain them. But obviously, they were all foil versions. So you've got the 7 there: Concentrate, Kirigiri 1, Midnight 1, Present Mic 1, Sato 1, Price of Peace, and Toru 1. And yeah, you get copies while playing those provisionals. They are fortunately redeemable, because these tournaments were never held in the UK, other than if you played, through the night on a webcam one. So you can still get those non-foil versions through the redemption system. But yeah, so you had to play in those tournaments to get access to these cards. Again, I don't know off the top of my head how many or which ones you got, but that was your way of getting these. And obviously there's some of these that are very good. So like Midnight 1, Toru 1's obviously seen plenty of play in sideboards. Concentrate's coming back into vogue. Sato 1's very good. So yeah, provisional promos were there. And then Plus Ultra for set 1. So Plus Ultra is something that's continuing, as far as I'm aware, will already be continuing to set 6. And although people do not enjoy the whole mechanically unique promos things, I think Plus Ultra is one of the most stomachable versions of them. So these are 12 different cards that will get sent to LGS's, local game stores, in sort of play packs. So you get, I don't know how off the top of my head, it's like 24 little individual boosters almost, with these 12 different cards in as a mixture. And therefore handing out for local tournaments. So if you're just going and playing locally, you get your Plus Ultras, you go get your points on your UGN system, and you get your Plus Ultra packs, and so you get your promos. Again, all of these are redeemable. So again, mechanically promos, icky, redeemable, makes it a bit better. They're all foil in these packs, and there were then some that are stamped with victory, to be, in theory, to be given out to the winners of these local tournaments, and some stamped with judge to be given to those who are, organising, judging these local tournaments. And this format has not changed in 5 sets, as you'll see going forward. So you've got all these cards. We do have a banned one on here in Crown Frog Takedown because it was too good. But yeah, so all of these cards are redeemable. again, we've got plenty of good ones here. So, like, you know, cards that still see play, like Reciprocal Acceleration Kick, Plus Ultra, Pillar Swing, um, All Might 3, arguably one of the best characters in the game. So yeah, all very good. And yeah, so yeah, you just have, and you can still, I believe, like if your local game store wants Plus Ultra One sets, they can still get them from the LGS team, and Jasco send these out for free. So just play in your LGS, get your Plus Ultras. Going on next, we get to set two. So that was Crimson Rampage. A slightly smaller set, so 119 cards with that distribution. Two SRs. Again, first edition unlimited printing. So all of the main breakdown here is pretty much the same as set one. You know, two SR, one, you know, two per case. There was a pre-release promo for set two, so I don't think there were pre-releases for set one, or at least they didn't. If they were, they didn't have a promo associated. But Alleyway Ambush, it is redeemable. Was a pre-release promo and is very good for certain characters, namely Toga One. So set two is a bit of almost like the red-headed stepchild of all the sets. In terms of the value from cracking one of these boxes, it's almost certainly the lowest in terms of what you can open. Like the only card I can think off the top of my head that really has held any sort of value is Excited for Blood, as an ultra rare. But there are still plenty of good cards in this set, but they're maybe a little bit more niche. But for example, Back Alley Haymaker is in this set, which is the most ultra rare of rares ever printed. But even that's not worth a lot of money. Just, you know, it's obviously just one of the better and more played cards in the game. But there's like I said, there's still plenty of good cards in here. So like, you know, going in new to the game, don't feel bad about opening Crimson Rampage. There's still plenty of good stuff here. You know, Double Jab Pummel, Forcing Surrender, new training method, Go for the Win, struggling with studies. Like there's plenty of good cards in here, but there's just not much value in that sort of rare, ultra rare slot that you're gonna you know, unless you're getting this at a big discount, you're not going to even come close to breaking even realistically on cracking these packs. But you know, there's still good cards in there, right? There's a lot of feeling that it was kind of almost a rushed set. Certainly, the characters are pretty mediocre, I would say. Deku 2 is very good. Toga 1 is very good. Ibarra 1 has seen a little play. Outside of that, yeah. I know Dabby 1 is in here, and you know, no one of any note played him ever. So, anywho's, but yeah. So the another slight difference actually in set two was instead of the Go Beyond as the box topper, there is a random extra rare in the sealed pack as a box topper. There's sort of a little extra for getting a box, as well as what we'll get into in a minute, the quirk packs. So that was a thing from sets 2 to 4, is that sealed XR, much to the dismay of certain judges over in the States who collects these as the sealed XRs. They've now got rid of them from set 5 going onwards, but that was so you know, opening a box of Crimson Rampage and not forward, you end up with 5 XRs out of a box. So the set 2 quirk packs, we've got Ingenium, Sugar Rush Power Up, Invincible Clasp, Advisor Winners, Learning the Standards. Same story as set 1. You got 2 packs on the top of your set 2 box. Not redeemable. Sugar Rush is very, very good. If you can play it, you probably should be. Learning the Standards, very, very good. Defensive piece. And yeah, it's just awkward having them in these quirk packs. So yeah, we've already sort of gone over how we think about, at least how I think about quirk packs, and how I'm glad they have gone. We then have another DLC with set 2. Possibly one of the weakest. Again, 12 fixed cards, 2 copies of each. You need 2 boxes. It's horrid. Kirishima 2 obviously tore up the meta while he was out, and then he's been errated into eh. Cannon Blast is very good. Homage to My Hero sees a little play when it's good. That's it, really, from this. So yeah, it's almost certainly worth your while trying to just pick up your Cannon Blast homages if you can, and they're likely to be cheaper than the cost of these DLC boxes. But again, very glad the DLCs have gone the way of the dodo. Other than that, there's not really much in this box. I mean, Denki 2 is probably a fun character-ish to play, but you can probably pick up a Denki 2 for pennies. Provisional promos for set 2. Again, I wasn't playing competitive in this era, so I don't know how many of these you got. Similar for the set 1 stuff, but in a similar way, there's 7 of them. They're all redeemable. I know this. I've heard the stories of Sports Festival Stadium, which is probably the best one out of these. Going for crazy money when it was first out, because it is very good. Although there is Gunhead 1, which is arguably the worst character in the game. Selkie's obviously got a little bit of support with his slams in set 5. Uwabami has always been sort of, a fun deck people like to take and has had some amount of success. Award the victors in that silly infinite Hardened Barrage combo. So some good cards in here. Again, all redeemable, and certainly if you're playing, in the EU or Oceania and stuff, that's your way of getting these cards. Or find them on the secondary market if you're desperate for the foil versions. Plus Ultras. We have Plus Ultras for set 2. All of these cards here. Sort of the standout ones being Fourth Kind, who has torn up metas in various times. Blood Curl, certainly coming a lot back into favour in sideboards recently. Facepalm Takedown has been seeing a bit of play in those sort of throw decks, whether that be Throverhaul or Dabby 2 throws. Dissolving the Conflicts, always seen a little bit of play here and there. Final Exam Failures, sometimes in those sort of Shigaraki 3, I'm going to stun everything sort of decks. There are people who love Cementos, and I don't think he's ever really done a lot, but he's certainly cool. And again, you had the 4 victory ones and the 4 judge ones, all redeemable. And again, very similar story. If you and your shop and your local play group still need Plus Ultra 2s, you can either redeem them or you can get those Series 2 tournament packs through your LGS team. So set 3, Heroes Clash, is our next one. So Heroes Clash was a bit of a weird one, a bit of a weird time. So the big thing here is sort of in that middle, that Chrome Rares. So in this set, there were 5 different character cards that were given this Chrome Rare treatment, and they were numbered. So there's 100 each of those 5 different cards. So 500 total amongst the first edition printing of this set. And they were highly desired because they do look really good. And obviously they sold for a lot on the secondary market for those people that are lucky enough to crack one. But there were a lot of people, especially collectors and whales within the game, I suppose, who were cracking case upon case of this product, chasing for those Chrome Rares. As a result, the secondary market for this set tanked. There's very little in this set that held any sort of value because they were Chrome chasing, and all the other cards they opened, they didn't give a monkeys about. So they just flooded the secondary market for dirt cheap because they just didn't care. So there was just so much that got opened, which is in one way great for players. You can pick up all the good cards like your Twisting Azure Infernos, when they were still legal, One with Natures, that sort of thing, stun grenades for dirt cheap, and it didn't matter. Because it's great as a play, you can pick up the cards you want for your deck for cheap. Not so great for stores when they're not selling boosters because there's no way you can recoup the value from opening your packs. Especially those stores that are trying to sell singles on this, there's no way they can crack a box and unless they get really lucky, hope to redeem that, what they paid for it in terms of selling those singles. Um, so yeah, it was a weird one. Probably not healthy-ish overall for the game, the way it panned out. Um, Set three as a general is very mixed. It felt very supplementary. There wasn't necessarily any big focus from the set. Whereas like certainly set one and set two, you had these big kits for characters. They were the big focus. Then with some at the back page, it almost felt like this entire set was back page. And by that I mean where you've got those cards that don't necessarily fit to any character in particular, or you've got those mini kits like you might get in a DLC or something where you've got a character, a foundation, and an attack. It just felt like a lot of that. Again, this had a pre-release promo, glass lineup, all redeemable, sealed XR. But there's still plenty in set three that's very good. You got like I say, twisting azure, stun grenades. Like obviously in your commons, you've got things like basic training, easily excited. It does have one with nature, which has been banned. It does have Ojiro 2, which ruled the meta for a while and has then got errated into death. Yeah, there's certainly a lot to like in set three there, but I almost find sometimes, despite how much division set two tends to get, sometimes I end up with almost like more set two than set three in my decks, unless I'm doing very specific things. But again, there's still plenty of good stuff in here. Going on quirk packs. So this is very similar. Sorry, when I say very similar, it's exactly the same as all the other quirk packs. Annoying. However, the standout one is the one on the page there, is Chivalrous Competitor. Exceedingly playable, exceedingly powerful card on all three of those symbols. To be honest, if I'm building a deck on those three symbols, almost certainly one of the first cards, even before a character card, is for this card. Just flip, draw. You don't care when you're drawing, and when you want to draw, your opponent drawing one doesn't matter, and it's flip protection. It's got a low block. It's just a one difficulty, and that's why I think it is peak. It was around $40 on like the TCG Players of the World. It still hasn't dropped too far. I'd imagine I think it's still about sort of £20-25, something like that. It's crazy, and you can't redeem it, and the only way to do it was for cracking cracking boxes of set three, which you didn't really want to do because everything was so cheap. And you needed four of them. There was people didn't like quirk packs before. They absolutely hated them when Chivalrous came about. And then when I opened this, you'd open your box of set three, you hope to get a Chivalrous, and it was always a copy of Backdraft and Death Arms. And yeah, having characters was always a bit of a feel was bad, certainly with these quirk packs. Having these characters that you definitely wanted multiple copies of, and then stuff like Chivalrous where you want 4 copies, it's just, yeah, icky. We then had Clash decks, which obviously didn't mention for set 2 because there were no Clash decks for set 2. So you've got and this is a slightly different format to the set 1 Clash deck in that we've got 2, the individual ones. So it's pretty much almost the same as that set 1, just cut in half and set into 2 individual different decks. We've got Endeavour 2 and Eraserhead 2. Same format, 50 cards, 18 cards in each. Annoying one-offs, like your Prominence Burn, your Prone to Dry Eyes, the random UR in each box. Can find them in the main boosters as XRs, SE Rarity. But it was sort of a nice change having them as the 2 separates. But other than that, pretty much the same thing, really. But there are plenty of good cards, probably more so in Endeavour, in the Endeavour box for sort of generic playables. There's some stuff in the Eraserhead one. The main thing really being the Prone to Dry Eyes. Like I remember when I was wanting to possibly play Frog at Nationals, I went out and bought 2 more copies of this just to have the 3 dry eyes. But the Endeavour one has things like your quick to axe and so forth in that foundation lineup that is a lot more staple than you would find in the Endeavour in the Eraserhead one. Our set 3 DLC was all themed about the Wild Pussycats. So again, mini kits around the Wild Pussycats. So Mandalay, Pixie Bob, Ragdoll, and Tiger. These tend to be fairly niche cards that almost play with those characters and very rarely outside them. Other than Tiger's kit, Tiger doesn't tend to see a lot of play, but Cat Punch and Plier Body do. I'm a huge Cat Punch stan. Plier Body, when they can, plays a lot in those 5-handers that can play it. A lot of the stuff in here is a bit iffy, but like things, I think it's Adorable Telepath. It's the one I'm thinking of that lets it pick up another copy of itself. Or is it Happy Go Lucky? I can't remember. That tends to see a bit of play, and the characters themselves are decent enough. They've always been a bit like haven't quite got there, but there's potential. I think certainly with like the Mandalay with the the Star Strike nonsense. But again, it's just an icky format of a product. You need 2 boxes for your play sets, and a lot of those cards end up going to waste because you never want them. Provisional promos, similar story. So this was these were a lot more, I believe, LGS based for set 3. And certainly for the UK, when we eventually got them, although slops to the LGS I played at, I don't know what happened with it, but they never had the provisional promos pricing, so never received them. They handed out, certainly for UK, like I said, a lot of the previous provisional promos in 4 versions. So this is a bit of a kind of make-up. But yeah, I think these certainly, from my experience, were a lot more LGS based for getting these ones, playing in those store provisional championships. But they're all redeemable, as before. Recovery Girl obviously is a format monster at the moment. Villainous Waylay has been in and out of favour. It's a fun card. Flamethrower has always felt like it's one of those cards we wanted to put in decks and always ended up taking out. I know Brett has a love affair with Gigantic Explosion. But yeah, redeemable if you want them in non-foil. Otherwise, you can probably find them on the secondary market on that. Plus Ultras, same format that we're seeing for 3 sets and will continue to. 12 cards, 4 victories, 4 judges. There's a lot of good ones in Plus Ultra 3. There was obviously a lot of drama when it came to Nationals times because a lot of people had access to this stuff because it came out at a very similar time. A lot of people didn't. So sometimes there was a bit of a fight between the haves and the have-nots. But yeah, so seizing the advantage is very good. Obviously, falling a little bit out of favour recently, but it's still powerful. Evil versus Good has always been a sort of fringe sideboardish card. The Bert and Ernie, the Hardened Barrage, and Rapid Punches are always going to see play, especially Rapid Punches, probably the standout really here. Petty Squabble, very good when you can play it. So yeah, a lot of good cards here. But again, if you need Plus Ultra 3, you can get them through your OGS. Go play that. Like if you want Plus Ultras, go play locals. They'll be able to get Plus Ultra kits. You can get these promos, and if not, you get the points to redeem them. So set 4, League of Villains. League of Villains is a weird one in terms of the sort of power level value sort of, I guess, expectation. I don't think it's quite lived up to the hype I gave it in my head, if that makes sense. It felt like the best sets in set 1. but I feel like it's sort of fallen off a little. There's still plenty here. So where I say it's like up and down, there's plenty of power. So things like Vile Season is still a bonkers card. But I feel like there's quite a lot of niche cards in here that you'll see you want for very specific decks rather than sort of being generically powerful. The characters were very, very cool, and everyone was really excited about the characters coming out the gate. But I don't think they've held up really in terms of their sort of competitive viability. Though most characters are playable at locals. Like if you hate yourself that much, you can go play at Gunhead and locals and probably have a good time. But the only one really that I can think of is like Shigaraki 3. Dabi 2 has done a little, and I think everyone had very high expectations of Dabi 2, and it's never really pulled through. But they feel a bit locals level characters, if that makes sense. But they're interesting and fun. Don't get me wrong, they're not bad. They just don't have necessarily that power to really start usurping those set one characters that are striding over the formats. We had a pre-release promo, Mr. Compress, redeemable. We had those first edition unlimited printings. No chromes for set 4. Other than that, you see all the stats on the page, pretty similar as everything else. We did have the sealed XR as the box topper, and then we did of course have our quirk packs. But this is the last hurrah of them. No more going from set 5 onwards. Valiant Assault being the big one. I think this still sells for like 30 odd quid because it's got the keyword punch and the good symbol. And it says draw 2 cards. I think sometimes maybe a little overrated, but it is very good. When it's in the decks that need it. Certainly, like I'm a big fan of it in Deku 2. I think some people maybe jam it when they shouldn't, but like Innsmouth, for example, has done a bit of, he's topped a few things. Kota's quite often a nice little one of in the decks that won him. League of Villains Bar is a weird one. Although we did see that there was a cool, I think it was Sir Night Eye deck jamming League of Villains Bar and doing fun things with that, which I was very appreciative of. Refreshing Slice is one of those like you might sort of sneak a couple of copies in somewhere. But again, it's the same story of quirk packs. They're a horrid format of obtaining cards, and I'm glad they're gone because they're not redeemable. Although at least with Valiant Assault, it is a reprint of an old UFS card, and you can play the old version if you can get your hands on copies of those, which will most certainly going to be cheaper than this one. We then had the Clash deck for set 4, which is back to the 2 deck versus version. So this is All Might. I think it's All Might 6, maybe 7. I can't remember off the top of my head. Versus All for One, the Prime Villain. Very, very similar format to, in fact, almost identical format to the Deku and Bakugo one. 50 card decks, 18 unique cards per deck, one-ofs. Get them in the main boosters as XR. And the one-ofs are the worst part of this. So that the one-offs are almost, certainly going back to like the Deku Bakugo ones, a lot of the commons, the sort of 4-ofs in the foundation slots, they were the most playable ones. In this, it's your force quirk activations, it's your ultimate combinations, it's your final smashes, i.e. the one-offs are the cards you actually want from this box. So again, I'm glad they've got rid of the one-offs going forward, which we'll see in a moment. But we got the 2 random URs. But there's still plenty of on those foundations that see a lot of play, like the 0 diff low block on the All Might deck, whose name escapes me, and a couple of the All for One certainly. All for One I love as a character. never quite got it to where I want it to be and feel like it's properly competitive viable. The All Might here is pretty bad, to be honest. But yeah, so another Clash deck, very similar to the first ever one we saw. DLC 4 was a bit different to our previous ones, and it wasn't mini kits like we had in the first three. This was almost 12 individual cards. It was all chibi art, so if love it or hate it, they're all in the chibi art. I'm not a chibi art fan. Maybe you are, and love the fact there was a DLC that all came out in chibi art. But it was a strange choice from my perspective. In terms of the cards in there, one thing they did do, which I liked and almost didn't like, and was the fact that all the characters in here, so Racer 3, Deku 3, Bakugo 3, Shoto 3, are all stacker characters, i.e. those characters where you want multiple copies of the character and card in your deck because they do a thing. So it meant that when you had to buy your 2 copies of boxes of this, because stupid DLC, those extra characters you're getting are actually doing a thing. So it sort of makes sense from that perspective. But it's still a shitty format of a product. In terms of the other cards in here, haven't seen huge amounts of play. Again, it's sort of fringe, so you might play a copy of Aspie's Friendship or 2 in like a ranged deck. Kirishima's Assistance, I've seen the odd card here and there. All Might's Mentorship is probably the standout one, just because it goes in the Hardened Barrage combo deck. Deku 3 has done a bit. I can't remember the chap's name. There's an American chap who loves Deku 3 and just jams him anywhere he can, and has got results. The other 3 haven't. They're not great. I think Shoto 3 is sort of cool, but not very good. But yeah, it's DLC. As I mentioned, I hate the format of the product, but those are the cards you get in them. So the provisional promos for set 4. So there were some changes here. So this is the sort of 2023 sort of competitive seasons. So they had a bit of an overhaul of the competitive play. So they set it into 3 competitive seasons. So season 1, season 2, and then you've got sort of nationals season. So season 1 was during set 4, and you got these 3 different promos, so All Might 7, Bursting Muscle Bash, and Dreaming of the Award, by going to a nationals qualifier, provisional store championship, and then you got 1 or multiple copies of each of those cards, depending on how you did. Again, they're redeemable. The only problem here is these cards are basically all bad. Like Bursting Muscle Bash has seen a little bit of fringe play now because of that top response you see on the screen. It's pretty good against Recovery Girl, so it's been seen play as a sideboard card. All Might 7, you only want 1 copy as a character. Dreaming of the Ward, sometimes you might sneak a copy into like a Toga deck if you're doing a thing, or like a Twice deck or whatever, but not great. But so they weren't. So these 3 cards, although they reduced it down to 3, so it means you have to go to like huge amounts of tournaments to get your play sets, like the 7 of previous ones. They didn't really feel to me like they had the draw to be traveling to multiple official championships. So it was like I understand what they did in terms of the changes they made to this, but they almost went a little bit too far the other way. But again, they're redeemable if you want them and don't have them yet. Plus Ultras, again, don't need to go over it again, how they work. Sort of standouts here being probably Teamwork, Redguard, Citywide Crisis. Like, there's a lot of playable ones here, like Rising Engine Kick and Full Howling Impact. Sort of have seen like a little bit of play here and there. Yeah, very good. Redguard probably being the big standout one, really. And then we get to the worst product in the entirety, and the worst availability of cards in the whole of the My Hero Academia CCG product line, and that is the Class Reunion. So there's two versions of this product. So you've got the big box, which has so each of these boxes, you've got the big box and the small box. Each of them has a singular copy of the Future Is Now as like a mechanically neat promo. Then the big box has 6 random of the other 10, and the small box has 4 random of the other 10. The small box then has 4 set 4 boosters. The big box then has 8 set 4 boosters, some 6 sort of status counters for things like frozen or built this turn or sealed or what have you. So 3 sort of speed and direction dice, 3 damage dice, a pack of 65 sleeves, which is a really weird number. I'd like to see this as 100 of a random artwork out of 5. Now the sort of the way they're set up, certainly the big box, it's all that other stuff, that extra stuff is really cool, and I like the sort of concept of it. My issue, and I think the issue that most other people have, is that these 2 boxes are the only way to get those 11 promos listed at the top. They're not redeemable, which is horrible. They're not cheap. They are randomized, so you could buy 10 boxes. So, for example, I recently got one of the big ones and 3 of the small ones. Didn't get a single copy of Runaway, one of the best cards in this lineup. So it's really hard to get your play sets of these cards through this product because it's random. They're not redeemable. Like, it's just a horrid format. And I very much hope and sort of expect that they never will do a product like this again, or if they do, it will be completely different. I.e., it'll be alternate arts. Like, alternate arts would have been fantastic and perfect in here. Like, if I'd have, because it means if I don't care about alt arts, I can just ignore it, right? Or if I do, then I can get them, and I've got these random alt arts, and I can trade them out, and it's cool. But just if I want to play Runaway, like, I now need to try and find someone on the secondary market or buy more of these boxes, which I'm not going to do. And like, a lot of these cards are kind of like the Future Is Now being the guaranteed one is at least something, because that's absolutely the sort of best one here and sees a lot of play in like Giro and so on and so forth. But like Masterminding is good, Runaway is good, Blazing Icicle could maybe see a little bit of play, and the other stuff's all a bit and yeah, it's just I could go on ad nauseum about how much I hate this product, to be honest. I wouldn't recommend buying it. Like, if you need set 4, like if you haven't got complete set 4, or there's not really any, or there's plenty you need from set 4, then they might be okay value-ish if you can buy them cheapish enough. But I can't in any good conscience recommend buying any of these ever. And just, if there's cards you want on that list, try and buy them on the secondary market. Set 5. So, set 5, obviously with card code companies, if they're going to make changes, they have to do them way ahead of time, right? Like, set 5 would have been in development probably when when set 2 was in print or whatever, So they go from set 5, and looks like going forward for future sets, they've made a lot of good changes, and credit, however much I will rag on them for the Class Reunion set 5, they made a lot of very positive changes. So no quirk packs, brilliant. No DLC, brilliant. Secret rares are now 1 per box, so gives you good value for cracking a box where you don't get those quirk packs. There isn't a sealed XR on top anymore. Again, much to the chagrin of a collector. There are now 11 cards in each pack. So each pack has a guaranteed character, which is nice. Improves limited play. Um, as you can see in the image down there, the pre-release, they made these nice little pre-release boxes where you got your 6 packs. You got your pre-release promo, which is Bright Future. Perfect. It was great. It was a perfect upgrade on the pre-release sort of experience. They also brought back Chrome Rares, which I've now noticed I've got a typo on and very embarrassed about. But they made a change, so it's no longer characters. It was 5 attacks from the set, so the 5 listed there. So again, the same format, 500 total, 100 of each. Although there was only one edition, so they got rid of the first edition unlimited edition sort of nonsense. Again, really positive change. And in terms of like the content of the set, like this would be to me the best set to open other than set one. Like there's a lot of power in it. All the characters are very, very good. So not just in terms of necessarily power level, but just in how fun and how interesting they are. Like there's very few of those characters that I can look at and say, yeah, this is just dull and bland. Like there's certainly ones in there that I'm not particularly interested in to me, but those characters then I mean certainly interesting to other people. So, and the ones I love, like I'm a big fan of what Shin Namoto is doing. I'm sure there's plenty of people that look at him and be like, but it's a great set. There's lots of power in here. The only probably one knock on this set is that very bottom one, which is 100% repeated smash, which is one of the secret rares, which is looming quite large over our competitive format right now, just with how powerful it is. And it's looming over the secondary market with how expensive it is. Like you open a 100% smash in your box, that pays for most of your box. It's probably 40, 50, 60 quid a card at the moment. Certainly as of recording. So yeah, it's very, very powerful. And I think it is sort of bannable. Wait to see whether they ever want to ban a secret rare, but yeah. In terms of the products, they made a lot of good changes with this one. There's a lot of good cards in here, there's a lot of good characters, and a lot of these cards make other characters better going backwards. Like all of the Deku 4 kit in this, so obviously there was Deku 4 in here, but all of his kit works very well in cards like in characters like Deku 2, in Eraserhead, in Midnight. So there's a lot of that taking these cards and going back forward, and also all these new sort of strategies and new things going with the characters in the set. So can wholeheartedly recommend set 5. We had Clash decks for set 5. Going back to the set 3 idea of the individuals, so we had Mirio and Overhaul. So not only are these are 2 very popular characters, right? Mirio, like the Million, and Overhaul are like just very popular amongst the sort of My Hero fan base. Both of these characters are crazy good, and have both had multiple top cut finishes so far. We are 3 RLEs into the season, and they've both had multiple top cuts. They're both very, very good, and there's plenty of cards in these Clash decks that are very good. Again, they're 50 card decks. The changes all positive for this. Well, I say all positive. There's no random ultra rare in each of these boxes, but instead of that, these run a lot cheaper at retail than the previous ones. Great. There's a lot of playable cards in them. Great. Everything is at least a 2-of. There's no 1-of cards in here now. So rather than having to buy 4 to get your playset of a card, of every card, you just need to buy 2. Brilliant. They've got the SE rarity. Yes, you can open them in XR in the main set, although I've heard Nice Try, one of the best cards in these boxes, is a bit of a myth at XR. But yeah, all very, very good products. And again, if you're just starting on the game, that certainly the Mirio and Overhaul decks are a really great place to start. Both very powerful, very fun. We have then our set 5 provisional promos. So there, this is they took what we did in sort of season 1 of 2023, and then we then got to season 2. So the set 5 provisional promos, and they've improved things, and I think it's all positive. So again, we've got 5 different promos. So 4 of them are sort of participation, and you get more copies. So that's the Charge, Shield Breaker, Maximum Overhaul, 1-for-1 Unleash, and Rescue Counter Attack. However, Bubble Girl is only available as a full copy for the winner of a provisional store championship. Now, I know there was kerfuffle about this, that it's like, oh no, I have to win a tournament to get a Bubble Girl. That's terrible. You're gatekeeping copies. Well, yes and no. So she's redeemable, and she's redeemable as of the point where she's also legal to play. And the same with all of these cards; they will be redeemable once they are legal to play, which I think is the 1st of September, something along those lines. You have to check the exact dates online. But it means that for these provisional store championships in season 2, there's reasons to go to them and reasons to travel to multiple, even if you've already got your nationals qualification in a previous one, because that's the other big part of trying to win one of these tournaments is to get your nationals qualification. And by having this sort of format, it's given extra cherries and reasons for people to go and try and get those cards, and to travel and again support those LGSs. So all really good, but this is how you get those cards. You eventually be able to redeem them this year. So I think it's sort of 1st September, but don't quote me on that date. It's around then. But yeah, if you want full copies, go to a provisional store championship. There will still be plenty as of time of recording. And then we've got the set 5 plus ultras. As you know, same format as always. The only slight thing here is that I think triggers are a myth, because I've never seen one or opened one, and I've opened a reasonable amount of Plus Ultra 5 so far, and just not managed to open one. But yeah, there's a lot of good cards in here. Certainly, if you want to play Mimic, you need 4 of those triggers and probably some amount of trigger transformation. But yeah, there's plenty of good cards in here. Some fairly niche, weird ones, like meaning you're manning up in flames. But yeah, it's Plus Ultra. Go play any LGS, get the 4 versions, or redeem them. Right, so that's a long old thing, but our final thing is I'm going to briefly cover alternate arts. I was going to try and go through everything and show examples and what all the individual ones are, but then I figured it was just, there's going to be a long enough video as it is. It's just not worth it. So I think these are all the ways of actually getting them, and I want to cover what they are. But so these are where they're mechanically the same as existing cards. They're just alternate art versions, right? So you don't need to feel like almost like you're missing out. You can't play your decks without getting these ones. They're just ways of shining them up. So Gen Con, we had some last year. We just had some go this year. Again, Gen Con, because it's big status, and because of almost like the time cost for people attending Gen Con to play in the regional licensing exam at Gen Con. Like you have to pay your entry fee to enter this big convention, and then spend a day or 2 playing in a tournament rather than enjoying the convention. You know, the attendees get a little extra. So the last year they got some. So both years they've got Gen Con promos. We've then got the sort of nationals, so playing in your nationals tournaments. Certainly last year there was a whole bunch of different promos, going up to like your top 4 and winner and runner-up promos, which were aggressive clash for that. Certainly for the top 4, and then there was a bunch of other different ones like Floating Up My Babies and New Trading Method as like alternate arts for like entry and for playing. The Hero League Championship Worlds did have Alter 3 promos, which I think most people were quite disappointed about because they were essentially the same. There were 3 characters that were just the same art as a previous 20 minute regional licensing exam character with a little HLC stamp, which felt a little rushed. Which I imagine is what it was. They probably wanted to do more and didn't have the time slash funds slash resource to get different specific HLC promos done. That is what it is. And I think the top 4 there got heroic clash with top 4 winner and contender sort of stamped on it. Regional license exams. So each season of regional license exam tends to have their own set of alternate art promos. So for 2023, for season 1 and season 2, it's been different chibi alt art promos. I'm not, as I mentioned before, I'm not a fan of the chibi stuff, but it is what it is. And then in previous years, they've obviously had a lot of other different, based on the season, different promos and different, sorry, not different promos, different alternate arts. Things like Electric Jolt, Zero Gravity Lift, Erase. Like there's a whole litany of different ones that are, some are cheapish, some are very expensive on those secondary market if you want to get them. Provisional tournaments. In terms of the art here, I think these are mainly for more top 8 and winner versions. So I think there was like winner sort of contender stamp things like Frigid Heat Wave and stuff like that. And I think there was a Dropkick Slicer one. There was a few different ones, but I think there were more top cuts type alternate art slash stamp versions. You then got the extra credit promos. So these were brought out in set 3/4. I don't know whether they're continuing with them. I haven't really heard anything. These were there to help support sealed play, so playing sealed deck tournaments at locals. And if Shop wanted to do those, they could send for them, and they would get some extra credit promos. So the first lot had a couple, so Destined for Mainstream Success and Release were almost like rare, and then there was a few other ones like I think Irrefutable Force of Nature and Latent Skill were more common among them. And again, you would get like a random sealed booster with one of these extra credit promos in for taking part in these things. They did some more for set 4 cards with, I think, the like League Interview was one of them. I can't remember exactly the other ones. I think Determined was one, but I don't know whether they're doing these going forward. But again, they're all just alternate art versions. And there's then been a sort of couple of tie-in promos. So there's a My Hero Academia card game, and if you got the second edition, because obviously I've got the first edition card version that doesn't have the promo, you've got an alternate art Deku 2. So then you've got Dim Mak, who does t-shirts and hoodies and stuff. There was a recent tie-in with the company where if you ordered a My Hero product from his store, you would get a random character with an alternate art on him. And I'm sure that's something they'll do more of going in the future, and there's possibly other ones that I've missed. But yeah, so those all arts. Like if you're not sure what all arts are about, probably the best thing to look is on like TCG Player as to what there are. And again, they vary a lot in price depending on what it is and how old it is and how good the card is, how playable it is, right? But yeah, I think that about covers it all, really. Hopefully, this has been helpful. I know it's been a long old waffle. So I'll put the slide in the slideshow in the description, and hopefully, that gives you some idea of what each product contains, what each of these different promo lines are. If in doubt, sort of obviously check on UBS Ultra. If you come across a card and it's like, where does Zero Gravity Barrier come from? Well, you can type in UVS Ultra, or the new deck builder by the Dobbers. That the site and name escapes me. Again, I'm sure we can get my my secretary Brett to put in the description. Obviously, they've got a new site up, but go check their channel. Look at their Fat Gum character builder thing, build a character, which is actually describing this new site. So yeah, check out the Dobbers channel for that, and I'm sure just look up a card and then it will tell you what set it's from. You can look at the little bottom, and then you come here and you see what product that is, and how I go about obtaining it. Excuse me. But yeah, I think that covers it. Obviously, if you've got any comments, if there's anything I've missed, if there's anything more you'd like to see in this sort of thing, or you've got any questions, just let me know. Let me know in the comments, and I'll try and help I can. But obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, do all the algorithm things. It really helps our channel. You know, we're trying to get all this content out to people that enjoy it, and hopefully it's helpful to people. So yeah, like, subscribe, all that nonsense. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll speak to you all soon.